We'll take a moment here to allow people to depart.
There's all my boys.
Teach me after.
Looks warm.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have a time for approval of minutes. I would first seek a motion, please, for the January 9th, 2018 special session, or special meeting.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Louderback, second, please.
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. Discussion or question on this first, or excuse me, yeah, discussion or question on this first set of minutes, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Abstain.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now please a motion for the January 11th, 2018 special meeting.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by the Vice President, seconded by Councilman Smith. Discussion or question on the second set of minutes, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Abstain.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And finally, a motion for the January 11th, 2018 regular meeting, please.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor, second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Discussion or question on this final set of minutes, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Abstain.
Councilman Louderback.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Usually this is our time for special presentations. We have none scheduled this evening, so our next item of business is audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the City of Xenia Council this evening, please feel free to do so. Step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, please.
John Kalp, 936 Orville Way. First off, I'd like to welcome Mr. Scrivens to the council.
Thanks.
So welcome him. Last week we had a snow event here in the city of Xenia and had several snow events back to back. Usually following a snow event, typically we'll come to a council meeting and it's kind of like a pep rally at the end of the council meeting about, you know, we want to thank staff for the job they did and, you know, job well done. I hope there's no pep rally tonight. I mean, honestly, council should be ashamed of the conditions of our roads. Staff should be ashamed of the conditions of our roads during the last snow event. I went to Yellow Springs, I went to Bellbrook, and I went to Beaver Creek that same day. Once you came into Xenia, there was a noticeable difference in the condition of our roads. Several days into it, our subdivision still had not been touched. Now, I understand as council members, I was one of the ones, you know, we decided not to do subdivisions if we didn't get, you know, 3 inches of snow or whatever it was. Well, guess what? We had more than 3 inches when you added up on top of each other, but I guess we didn't have 3 in one snow event. But the snow kept accumulating. And at 5 degrees, when the snow packs down and the cars drive on it, it's just going to form a sheet of ice. So, you know, why we weren't out there hitting the subdivisions, I don't necessarily blame the guys driving the snow plows. They're only doing what they're told to do and when they're told to do it. So I put it back on staff and on council for not holding staff accountable, because there's certain services in the city that taxpayers expect, and that's one of them, clean roads. Now that the snow is gone, we've got a minefield. Kinsey Road, Galloway is horrible. They need repaired. We got infrastructure that needs repaired under those roads. Some way, somehow, this council has got to find at least another $500,000 to throw into the budget towards roads. At least then it'd be 1.2 million. 500,000. Positions, benefits, vehicles, people not needing vehicles that are getting vehicles. Surely we can find at least $500,000 in the budget to throw towards some more roads, because they're horrible. And I mean, it's getting to the point where council should be embarrassed. Thank you very much.
Anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
Billy Carrico, 606 Sutton Drive. I wasn't coming here planning on talking about anything, but with John Kalp's comment, I would like to let you know I had 3 people call me about their cars because of the road during the snow condition. I have one person, I did instruct her to call you, Brent. I didn't know who to tell her to call. She sent me pictures of her brand new car she just signed paperwork on 2 days ago, was driving home, hit a pothole, dinged up the whole entire driver's side. I have the pictures, I have her name. I think that somebody needs to take responsibility and call this young woman back. She doesn't have the money to fix it. She used her whole entire savings account to buy a new car. She isn't someone that can just go out and purchase another one. Your roads did it on the way home from the dealership. If you want more information, I'd be happy to give it to someone if someone claims attention, and we'll look into this matter. Thank you.
Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please?
Hello, my name's Christian Steen, 377 North King Street. Just following up on Mr. Kalp's comment, I live on King Street. I take Galloway Street to get home. After the snow event, after the snow had melted a little bit, the week prior to the snow event, actually, Galloway streets were not great, even before the snow event. And the Wednesday before the snow event, blew a tire on potholes on Galloway Street. So wrecked a tire. And coming back home in my van, wrecked my control arm on another pothole. So, yeah, the roads are bad. That was the control arm happened after the snow had melted a bit, and the potholes became craters. And the city's put down some gravel, which it's helped, but it's still, the roads need immediate addressing for repavement. Thank you.
Would anyone else care to come and address the Xenia City Council this evening, please? Seeing none, we will move on to old business. First item under old business this evening on our agendas is ordinance 2018-02. Excuse me. Madam Law Director, please.
Mr. President, this is the second reading on ordinance 2018-02, enacting section 230.03 titled Administrative Steering Committee and repealing sections 236.09 and 252.03 of the codified ordinances of the city of Xenia, Ohio. This ordinance was originally introduced by Councilman Smith on January 11, 2018.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for passage, please.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice President. Discussion or question on this item, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean. Aye. Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now we have Resolution 2018-A. Madam Law Director, please.
Mr. President, this is the second reading on Resolution 2018-A, authorizing amendments to the City of Xenia's electric power aggregation, plan of operation, and governance. This resolution was originally introduced by Councilman Lauterbach on January 11, 2018.
So moved.
Move for passage. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Discussion or question on this item, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean. Aye. Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Ingram.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This time we have public hearings. First being ordinance 2018-03 as an emergency. And it is providing appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Xenia, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018, and declaring it to be an emergency. Mr. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's first public hearing is intended to address the 2018 final budget. Ordinance 2018-03 represents the necessary legislation to authorize the final budget for City of Xenia for fiscal year 2018. Authorization of the final budget is a requirement of the Xenia City Charter, Section 9.05C, and doing so sets forth funding priorities and appropriations for all anticipated services and operations for the ensuing fiscal year. All state, county, and local requirements for preparation, public notice, and public hearing for budget approval will have been met with tonight's actions. While comprehensive, this funding plan is conservative, and as such, there may arise needs throughout the coming year that will require individual supplemental appropriations in order to meet operational resource deficiencies. The spending plan presented in this budget includes a fully staffed public safety department with the addition of 3 full-time firefighter positions partly funded through the SAFER grant program, 2 substantive additions to this final budget since the temporary budget approval that should be noted are the addition of a probation officer staff position for the court and the addition of the anticipated expenses related to the emergency repair of the chiller system at the Justice Center. And I have previously provided information earlier this week to council on those items. It is recommended that following the public hearing, the ordinance be considered as an emergency item this evening. This is in order to finalize all funding and appropriation amounts at the earliest possible date, which allows our departments and divisions to initiate bid procedures and other related activities for capital projects as soon as possible, thereby improving the likelihood of project completion during this fiscal year. The budget as presented for all funds totals $63,456,837.95. This includes positive ending fund balances for all funds. The budget allows the city to meet our internal requirement for reserve funding. On a budget basis, the key operating funds cash flow does show negative, but this of course assumes all budgeted funds are spent for all accounts, which experience tells us will not happen. On a projected actual basis, we anticipate a key operating fund positive cash flow of approximately $200,000. Staff requests council conduct the public hearing this evening and recommends approval of ordinance 2018-03 as an emergency.
Thank you very much. At this time, I will open the public hearing on the 2018 budget and would ask anyone wishing to speak for this budget to step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, please. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against this budget, please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, please. Thank you. On the subject of the budget, anyone wishing to speak neither for nor against this budget but has a comment to make, please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, please.
John Kelp, 936 Overway. I would just request that council possibly provide the citizens of Xenia with a update on the number of new positions and what those new positions are since 2016. The additional positions. Also, it'd be nice if we could see how much we spent on benefits in 2016 versus the 2018 budget. And I would also ask council to leave the citizens know how much you plan on spending on the roads. And if you did consider any additional monies besides the, I believe it's 750,000 that we're spending on the roads. And, you know, it'd be nice if the citizens would be able to see a summary of the cuts that were made to the budget this year in order to provide for infrastructure improvements and streets improvements. Because I can tell you right now, the citizens of Xenia are not going to vote for a streets levy. So you better find the money somewhere else in that budget because they're not going to pass a levy. Thank you.
Would anyone else care to speak neither for nor against the item? Please step to the podium.
Christian Steen, 377 North King Street again. Could I get a repeat of how much the budget was again? I didn't catch it when Mr. Merriman rattled it off, how much the budget was.
Total budget of all funds is $63,456,837.95.
$63 million. Is that it? $63 million?
That is correct.
That seems wholly unreasonable for a community of our size, you know. You know, we're a 25,000 person population town, whereas I do a lot in Springfield. And, you know, a population of 60,000 people. Springfield, they provide services at, I do believe, $42 million is their city budget, which that's substantially different from, they're providing a lot of services, same as Bob Xenia here is, but they're saving their taxpayers. Their budget is drastically less. We can look at the other end of the spectrum, like Wilmington. Their town is about half the size of Xenia, and their budget is what, about $10.5 million? So it seems like Xenia's budget is far out of line for our population base, and that's something that should be maybe looked into, maybe cutting the budget down. I don't know, but that's my thought. Thank you.
Would anyone else care to speak neither for nor against the, we'll have discussion in just a moment, Councilman, from the audience. Anyone else wishing to speak neither for nor against the budget? Thank you. I will close the public hearing at this point in time and will invite a motion for approval of the budget as an emergency, please.
Move approval, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moved by Councilman Scrivens as an emergency. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Discussion or question on the item? Councilman.
I'd just like to address the citizens' concerns about the streets. I agree 100% with you. We have $5 million in our cash reserve. I call it the rainy day fund. I've made a proposal. I think the minimum requirement, Ryan, is $3 million.
It's a little beyond 3 million, but in that neighborhood, yes.
Okay, so we have approximately $2 million left.
We're about to get into the financial management policies a little later today, but if you're including the police and fire capital fund, that's when the reserve was 5 million. That's how the funds were structured in 2017 and 18. The recommendation is to remove that police and fire capital fund and reduce the transfer to that fund. So your reserve requirement is going to be closer to 4 million because the balance in that fund is about $1 million. So of that $1 million rainy day fund or reserve, $1 million of that is allocated already to police and fire capital expenditures.
Yeah, so our budget for streets is what, 500,000?
That's the amount that we set aside for the annual program. Yeah. I don't have the number right in front of me.
But my point is we have about $1 million that we could put towards the streets, in my opinion. That would be a way of fixing some of our streets. And I will not support a street levy, not a tax and spender. But in my opinion, we have $1 million that we could apply towards our streets. Thank you.
Any other discussion or question on the motion, please?
Mr. President.
Yes.
I agree with Mr. Kalp 100%. Our streets are, at this point, deplorable, but we've suffered very heavy weather events over these last few months. And if you know anything about water and what water does when it freezes, it expands. It's called the coefficient of expansion. Water gets into cracks, it expands, it cracks out. Next thing, we have a load going across the surface. It can't stand the load, so it's going to stress, and stress fractures. So we have what we have. This is our town. These are our streets, not your streets. These are our streets. And I agree with Councilman Lauterbach. If we have monies that we have in stow, I think we need to have all hands on deck and get our roads back up to a point where citizens could be proud to drive on them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question on the motion, please?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Thank you. What time frame weather, what does the weather have to do before we can start filling some potholes? I guess that's a big question a lot of people. Is like March, do we wait till April?
There's really two answers. The first answer is, we already have a crew out. We've had a crew out this whole week. Those are efforts that include filling potholes, any damage that blades cause to curbs or sod, that sort of thing. We won't reseed this time of year, but we'll try to clean up some of the mess and come back in the spring and reseed. So some of those efforts are underway. That's what we call a cold fill, which essentially is a substance that can fill. It bonds a little bit to the surface, but it's not a long-term fix. So we can actually get our Durapatcher out in temperatures that would be pre-spring, but again, it's got to be a little warmer, a little more consistently than what it's been. So you're looking probably the end of March before you can really put some of the hot fill, the more permanent patches that you'd be looking at.
Thank you. It's a kind of a catch-22. My mother-in-law used to work for Kettering as a dispatcher, and that was in the 90s. And their policy, they did not plow. They did not plow any side streets because the plows caused damage to the streets. So I think some of our damage is because of the plow. So, it sucks that we get so much snow in a short period of time. And then when we do move that, we cause still more damage to our streets. So it's that catch-22. And I agree with Councilman Scrivens. This winter's the worst I can remember in probably 5 to 10 years. So I think we just had that snowball effect of the bad weather. I do agree. Streets are top of mind for me. I would like to see us aggressively attack that. And we have had some dialogue already of having a special session on this topic and how we're going to attack it. And I'm willing to go that direction.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question, please? I just have one element to add as well, talking about the so-named rainy day fund. It's important for all the citizens to remember that while there may be a 1 million, 1.5 million, whatever it happens to be, addition to our reserve this year, we rely on our city management staff and our finance director to carefully monitor that through a 3 to 5 year projection process, such that through each of those 3 to 5 years, we will meet our reserve requirement and not become deficient to our own policies. I think all of us are perfectly willing to entertain conversation about how we might more aggressively attack our street problem, but I believe we should do so in a very measured fashion, especially given that there's no asphalt available at the present time to do anything with. But we should do it in a very measured fashion with some deliberation and some very cold, salient advice on where the financials of the city are going in terms of expected tax revenues and that sort of thing before we commit to, we'll spend $1 million this year more on streets. I don't think any of us are against that. I am just suggesting that we as a body, like Engel's opinion, should look at it very deliberately and make a very reasoned judgment, not about just what happens to be extra in the till projected for this year. Any other comments, please?
The only thing I would suggest, Mr. President, is that we might want to take a look at an assessment to see exactly where we do stand. You're exactly right. At the end of January, we absolutely can't start any repairs because it's too cold to do it.
Certainly not permanent repairs.
Because as a matter of fact, they did put some gravel down on Church Street, and they put the gravel down in the morning, and that evening it was all out of the holes. and all of the gravel that it put down was displaced at the end of the day, and so it was all an effort in futility. And so that effort was wasted energy. But it is a problem. So that's, I don't know, I haven't been on Galloway, but I've certainly been on Church every day, because that's the way I go home. But we certainly need to assess where we are and see what we can do and what we can spend. And I agree that, I totally agree that we are not going to get a levy passed, but we certainly can see what we can spend. And by the time we get to the end of March, early April, start getting some patching done. So,
Thank you. Any other comments, please?
Mr. President, I have
Yes.
one. Normally, when we piggyback with the county to do the combined effort of the street replacement, that seems like it is done really late in the summer. Can that be moved up, that time frame, to earlier in the year?
The answer is maybe. And so the reason typically in the recent years we've been a little later in that cycle, you know, all of the communities that combine under the county engineers collective bid, you can't necessarily pick or choose. We've asked to be a little later the last couple of years because we were trying to get some water and sewer infrastructure complete before that asphalt went down. Not sure where we're at with that this year, but it might be an opportunity depending on what we finally determine with council in terms of which streets would be added to this year. Bear in mind, you know, we do in this budget for this year, because of the result of successful grant applications, we do have some pretty big projects in the queue this year. And how timely is the blessing of grant dollars for South Progress, for example, which is maybe one of the worst streets we have. So that's a project. But there again, you know, these things are so circumstantial. South Progress happens to be, you know, concrete, and that's a much more costly project to have to tear all that concrete out to replace. You'll find absolutely no argument and complete concurrence, I think, from the staff's perspective. This is the city's big problem. We have lots of problems in this community, but this is a safety problem, it's a convenience problem, and it's an economic problem, because a community with infrastructure in this condition cannot be as competitive as other communities. But I can tell you that we have made a lot of positive steps in recent years, but the rate of decline from really 20 or 30 years of disinvestment has caught up with the city. And when you combine a winter such as we've seen with temperatures with, you know, highs in the single or below zero digits, and then 2 days later it's 55 degrees. To Councilman Scriven's point, that freeze thaw is just brutal on your roads, as well as your water infrastructure, your sewer infrastructure. Folks may have noticed we've had a lot of water main breaks. I can't remember a year we've had this many water main breaks in such a short amount of time. So again, I don't want to be long-winded. As council knows, and I was going to mention in my notes later this evening, we are looking at a work session probably the end of February, early March, to lay out a sort of comprehensive assessment of the state of the streets, to lay out what the options are. I'm not saying I'm endorsing a ballot measure, but that is an option for us to provide to you, for you to consider putting on for voters. And then we'll look at some other options that, juggling things around and different approaches that might be taken, because again, this is probably the biggest issue in the community.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question, please?
Mr. President.
Yes.
And we just have to realize that it's all temperature sensitive. I mean, we can't patch anything at 0 degrees. We can't patch anything at 30 degrees. So we have to wait till what, about 40, 45 before it'll actually stick. And
To put a hot patch down, yeah, you need to be in the upper 40s and low 50s. And again, your asphalt plants really won't open up until probably an April timeframe, because they need a constant, high temperature above 60 or so degrees. So there are some timing issues. Again, we have had and will have crews out, continue to try to put the cold patch in to make them, a better surface. But it is still going to be rough, and that is something that we definitely need to address.
thank you, Mr. President.
Any other discussion or question, please? Thank you. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now we have ordinance 2018-04, amending sections 1234.02B2, 1236.10C3, and 1244.02 of the City of Xenia Land Development Code. Mr. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's second public hearing is for consideration of Ordinance 2018-4, which presents two recommended amendments to the city's Land Development Code. As promised when the new code took effect, staff continues to work with members of the residential community, the business community, and our Planning and Zoning Commission to consider impediments to quality of life or business development that can be removed or improved through the Land Development Code. Ordinance 2018-04 does just this. As detailed in the agenda report, the proposed ordinance modifies the code in two ways. One, by softening restrictions on the types of commercial vehicles allowed to park at private residences to include step vans and dually pickups, and two, by increasing the maximum height allowed for blade signs from 8 feet to 12 feet. Staff has conducted research on policies of comparable communities and discussed at length with our Planning and Zoning Commission the policy implications of recommending these changes. After much consideration, it was determined that these amendments to the code would provide reasonable flexibility for small business operators without any undue negative impact on residential neighborhoods. Staff recommended the code amendments, and the Planning and Zoning Commission subsequently voted to endorse the changes as well. Our staff in the Planning and Zoning Commission should be applauded for their open-mindedness and their willingness to address problems with practical solutions as intended when the new approach to our Land Development Code was adopted. Staff requests that Council conduct a public hearing and introduce the ordinance this evening.
Thank you. At this time, I will open our second public hearing and invite anyone wishing to speak for the amended sections to step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, please. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against the amended sections, please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, please. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak on the subject of the amended sections but wanting to speak neither for nor against, please step to the podium, provide us your name and address. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes, please. Thank you. At this time, I will close the public hearing and would invite one of my colleagues to introduce the ordinance, please.
Mr. President, I'll introduce that.
Thank you. Introduced by Councilman Smith. We'll now move to the new business section of our agenda this evening. Resolution 2018-B as an emergency, which is approving the 2018 financial management policies and goals and declaring an emergency. Mr. Finance Director, please.
Thank you, Council President. Each year in conjunction with the request that Council approve the budget, staff brings financial management policies and goals to Council to approve. Those policies and goals are very relevant to the conversations that were just being had related to streets and infrastructure capital planning. These policies and goals, they're a great tool and give us some guidelines to follow as we do prepare the budget, as we do capital planning, as we put together 5-year projections or financial forecasts, as we develop rate models for utilities, all of those types of things. The financial policies and goals that Council has before them tonight have a very different format, but the substance of those policies is very similar to what has been presented in the past. A couple notable changes to those policies. One is that the 2-month reserve requirement has been changed to basically a 17% of annual costs in those funds, which is very close to the 2 months. 2 months is 16.7%, but 17% is a little cleaner, a little clearer. Some of the intent in these revisions is to make it easier to understand exactly what we're trying to achieve. Another one of those changes is some clarification differentiating between the general fund and the other key operating funds. So before, it may have been unclear what balance may have needed to be kept in the general fund or any of those other funds in particular. This one is very clear, these new policies, in saying that the general fund has to maintain at least 17% of the expenditures in the general fund as a reserve balance, whereas the other key operating funds don't necessarily need to keep that balance in that fund in particular, so long as the aggregate amounts in those key operating funds meets that 17% requirement. So trying to bring some clarity to those types of things. Another key change, as I mentioned earlier, is removing that police and fire capital improvement fund from the key operating fund classification and treating it like our other capital funds. I don't think that it's most appropriate to treat those capital dollars that are reserved for public safety functions as we would other key operating funds. One of the changes that we've done as we've made that move is to decrease the percentage of income tax that is transferred into that capital improvement fund. So in prior years, 6.5% of income tax dollars were transferred to that police and fire capital fund to fund those types of expenditures. Over the next 5-year period, 3.5% of those income tax dollars is sufficient to cover those types of capital expenditures, and that allows us to keep those other income tax dollars available in the key operating funds like our general fund for other types of expenses. I know there was talk about the reserve requirement and what we should or shouldn't use that reserve for. The key operating funds are operating expenses or operating funds. And while I do think that there's merit to the conversation of taking some of those dollars that are in excess of our reserve requirement and using those to repair streets, which is one of our, as Brent said, one of the things that are our highest priority in trying to address. I think we need to be careful about just how much we transfer out of that, because it is operating. If you transfer too much out of that operating fund, then you could get into a situation where you can't cover key operating expenditures like police and fire, and that would be a very bad place to be. So we need to be careful in evaluating that. As President Engel mentioned, we do have a 5-year forecast that looks at the balances in those funds and what they're projected to be. And so as we move forward, I think it's important to take a look at bigger picture, not just what our balance is today, but what they may be 5 years from now as we make some of those decisions. But I do think there's a lot of merit to the conversation about what we would move out of those funds into the other funds. I think it's also important to note that the financial management policies are, I really view them as requirements. They're the things that we need to achieve, whereas goals are things that we would like to achieve, that we would hope to achieve, but that we aren't necessarily bound by. In this particular, staff is confident that what's presented in the budget this year, that with what's presented, we will meet each of the policies that's outlined in this document, and we will meet the vast majority of the goals. There are a few that we may or may not meet, but I'm confident that each of the policies that's listed here will be met.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, at this time as an emergency to approve the 2018 financial management policies and goals?
So moved as an emergency.
Thank you. Moved by the mayor as an emergency. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now we have ordinance 2018-05, which is accepting the dedicated streets in the village of Sterling Green subdivision. Mr. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presented for introduction this evening, ordinance 2018-05 would accept for public use and formally dedicate New Mexico Drive and Dundee Drive, both located within villages of Sterling Green subdivision section 3. As described in the agenda report, a series of events and economic circumstances resulted in the final course of asphalt not being completed until last year, after council in July of 2017 approved a renegotiated subdividers agreement and performance bond with M1 Development. In exchange for an increased bond amount, the city agreed to perform the final course of asphalt on New Mexico and Dundee. M1 Development will reimburse the city for this work with the backing of the new performance bond. The final course of asphalt has since been completed on both roadways, and the city's inspected these streets and found them to be properly constructed and in good repair. Therefore, streets in the subdivision are now complete, and as such, this ordinance accepts for public use the previously dedicated streets within the villages of Sterling Green subdivision. Staff recommends introduction of the ordinance this evening.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction from one of my colleagues, please?
So introduced.
Thank you. Introduced by Councilman Latterback. Now we have Resolution 2018-C, which is adopting the City of Xenia's natural gas aggregation plan of operation and governance. Mr. City Manager, please.
Presented this evening for introduction is Resolution 2018-C, adopting the City of Xenia's natural gas aggregation plan of operation and governance. The goal of the natural gas aggregation program is to facilitate additional and less costly choices for supply of natural gas for eligible residents, as well as commercial customers pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 4929.26. Conceptually, the city's natural gas aggregation program would seek to aggregate the retail natural gas loads of consumers located in the city to obtain the lowest price for the supply of natural gas. Participation in the city's aggregation program would be limited to individuals who are not already under contract with an alternative competitive retail natural gas supplier, and participation in the aggregation program would be voluntary. Every eligible customer would have the opportunity to decline to be a participant or to opt out of the aggregation program and to remain with Vectren or to enter into a natural gas supply contract with any other eligible supplier. Adoption of this plan does not compel the city to fully implement the natural gas aggregation program or to contract with a specific supplier. However, in order to proceed with an RFP process to determine the price competitiveness of aggregated natural gas, the city is required to have a plan approved and submitted to the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. Staff therefore recommends council introduce Resolution 2018-C this evening.
May I have an introduction of resolution, please?
So introduced.
Introduced by the Vice President. Thank you very much. We now have Resolution 2018-D, which is designating the city clerk as council's designee for the purpose of complying with Ohio's Sunshine Law training requirements. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. Elected officials at the local level are required to take public records training, or in lieu of that training, they can designate someone to take that training on their behalf. Since 2014, the city clerk has served in that capacity, and we are requesting a resolution here tonight to formalize that. In the past, we've done that via administrative motion, and by doing this formally via resolution, it would negate our need to come back in future years to make this designation.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction from one of my colleagues, please?
So moved, Mr. President.
Introduced by Councilman Scrivens. Thank you. Now we have contract renewal with Miami Valley Communications Council and Interstate Gas Supply and Company for city facilities electric generation services. Mr. City Manager.
The City of Xenia, like most cities and municipalities in our region, has participated in a regional purchasing group for electric generation and transmission supply services, specifically for municipal facilities, that is coordinated and handled through the Miami Valley Communications Council. This partnership has resulted in significant savings toward the city's facilities cost relative to electricity. Recently, the electric generation industry has seen some changes that have resulted in lower electric rates on a larger competitive basis. In an effort to take advantage of this market condition, MVCC has coordinated a renegotiation of the terms of our facilities aggregation agreement. This has resulted in a lower kilowatt rate, with the trade-off being an extended contract term. Because of the nature of these changes, it is appropriate for City Council to authorize an execution of the amendment to the General Supply Agreement approved by Council back in 2011 to extend the term for the agreement for another 4 years at this newer rate, which will save the city money. It should be noted that all participating communities must endorse the changes with the contract amendment in order for the new lower rate to take effect. All participating communities have indicated their support for the contract amendment. So staff therefore requests a motion this evening to authorize execution of the contract amendment.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to authorize the execution of the contract?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Latterback. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Discussion or question on this item, please?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Back when I was a citizen, I'd heard Councilman Lauterbach speak to the issue of having a gas aggregate along with an electrical aggregate. I think it's very wise, and so far so good. I think we've had a savings of 43,000 or so over that period, and that's significant. So anything we can do to save the taxpayers' money and redeploy it on the streets, I'm for it.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
sir.
Any other comment or question, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now we have before us the approved schedule of bills and the amount of, and this is a change from what is in our packets. I think all of us had seen an email communication. The amount of bills is $548,455.86. Mr. Finance Director, anything to add, please?
Just that there was a credit of $23.78 to a vendor for whom we didn't have an offsetting invoice. So obviously you can't cut a check for a negative amount. And somehow that slipped through the cracks. So we've removed that from the scheduled bills and corrected the total amount.
Thank you very much. Motion, please, to pay our bills this evening.
Mr. President, may I question?
Question after we have a motion and second, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Would you like to make the motion to pay?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Step forward and volunteer. Motion by Councilman Scrivens, second, please.
I'll second it.
Seconded by the Vice President. Now, discussion or question on the motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Back when I was health inspector, I would see a number of wild animals and roadkill on the street, and I'd call Greene County Animal Control, and they'd dutifully come out and pick it up and dispose of it. Now, I see here we're paying $6,000 for that type of service. We're not with Greene County anymore, or what's the deal?
So my predecessor negotiated actually, to be quite honest, there was a rather rough relationship. The county had made some changes to some of the services, and so my predecessor, working with council, moved to take some of those services and put it in the hands of private vendors. There are certain services that are still provided through Greene County Animal Control. Our new assistant city manager and I, back in December, I believe it was, visited the county facility, had some discussion with them. This is a service area that I mentioned to the rest of council back at the end of last year that we are actively looking at, looking to determine if there's a more cost-effective way, perhaps going back to the county saying, can you make us a better offer than where you were at before? So I think it's one of those areas that, we want to provide a good service, do it as cost-effectively as possible, and it might mean a change from what we're currently doing.
Thank you, sir. That answered my question, sir.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question on the budget and bills, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Excuse me. Under our new business, we also have an appointment to the Board for Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities. And the recommendation reads, the death of longtime member Audra Broyles created a vacancy on the Board for Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities, or BRACA. 3 community members responded to the call for volunteers. In December 2017, former council member and chair of BRACA, Jeannie Mills, and BRACA's vice chair, Lynn Engel, interviewed all 3 candidates. One person was deemed ineligible because she did not live in the city limits. On behalf of former city council member and chair of BRACA, Jeannie Mills, and BRACA's vice chair, Lynn Engel, I respectfully accept their recommendation to appoint Mr. Tom McCarthy to BRACA with a term expiration date of July 31st, 2021. Mr. McCarthy's background check has been processed by the Human Resources Director and is satisfactory. So I am making the motion to appoint Mr. McCarthy. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice President. Discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, I also have an item to bring to council for their consideration. It is customary that at the second council meeting each year, the council president recommends for approval various boards, commissions, and committee assignments. Other assignments are made by the council president and do not require council approval. Therefore, I'm respectfully requesting the appointment in the recommendations below and assign the mayor and council members to various boards, commissions, committees as follows. And let's hope that my voice will continue to carry with me here. The Budget Review Committee, which is under the boards, commissions, and committees, Michael D. Engel, Dr. Edgar Wallace, and Levi Dean. The Chamber Board of Directors, Sarah Mays, with an alternate as Mr. Brent Merriman, the city manager. The Charter Review Committee, Michael D. Engel, Wesley Smith, and Dr. Edgar Wallace. Greene County Career Center's Health Science Academy Advisory Board, Thomas Scrivens. Greene County Emergency Preparedness Committee, Michael D. Engel. Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, Representative is Dale Louderback, the alternate is Levi Dean. The Pretreatment Review Committee is Dr. Edgar Wallace. The Stormwater Advisory Committee is Dale Louderback, Wesley Smith, and Thomas Scrivens. The Tax Incentive Review Committee, Council, is Wesley Smith. The Wellhead Protection Committee is Levi Dean and Thomas Scrivens. Now the recommendation making the following 2018 Board, Commission, Committee assignments as follows. Under Boards, Committees, and Commissions and Committees, the Board of Zoning Appeals Chair, which is a 4-year assignment, is the Mayor, Ms. Sarah Mays. The Loan Trust Fund Committee Chairperson, Thomas Scrivens. The Vice Chairperson, Dale Louderback. Planning and Zoning Commission Chair, Wesley Smith. Traffic Commission Chair, Levi Dean. Economic Development Advisory Board Chair, Dr. Edgar Wallace. And that concludes the appointments that I have in this item. I would ask for a motion, please, to approve these appointments for 2018.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second that.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Discussion or question on the appointments, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilman Louderback?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And a final item under our new business is ratification of collective bargaining agreement with IAFF Local 698. Mr. City Manager, please.
As previously discussed with members of City Council, staff has been in the collective bargaining process with members of IAFF Local 698, negotiating within parameters established by City Council. In a very positive development, the parties have utilized the interest-based bargaining process, and these efforts have paid off successfully. Parties have reached a tentative agreement, and the union has ratified the contract. Staff therefore recommends City Council authorize execution of the contract under the terms and conditions as provided in the report to you this evening.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, to approve the terms and conditions?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the Mayor. Discussion or question on this item, please.
I would like to just applaud the staff for an excellent, I think, an excellent job of negotiating the IAFF agreement. And I think they've done a yeoman's task in developing the contract.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Any other questions or comments, please?
I would just like to echo that sentiment for the union as well. They came into the process with some new folks and very open-minded. And, you know, of course, there are asks for additional things, but I appreciate their willingness to work through the IBB process and to come to a successful conclusion.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question, please? I would echo.
Thank you, Mr. President. For those that are watching, this is our firefighters, and you know, I can't thank them enough for the job they do. Our first responders. It's important for us to have a good relationship with all our city workers, but especially our first responders, because when you dial 911, you expect that service, and you don't really care what they're getting paid, and you just want treatment. And in the past, this is my 9th year on council. We've never been able to have an agreement like this quickly. And previous councils, previous city manager, we dreaded the firefighter negotiation because we knew we could never come to agreement. And I think this is a testimony to the direction that we're going in the leadership with our city. And I really appreciate the job they've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other observations or questions, please? I would echo your comments, Mr. City Manager, that it was a well-done job by all, from city staff as well as our firefighters, negotiating in good faith and coming to a conclusion that was fair and equitable, that will bring our firefighters into a degree of parity with others on city staff, and fair in comparison to counterparts within the surrounding communities. If there are no other questions, I would ask for a roll call vote, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This time we have an opportunity for reports of committees, mayors and managers. Mayor or Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. President. There were two business items that were discussed at the last Mayors and Managers meeting. Those pertain to the small cell and municipal income tax litigation matters, and we've been keeping council abreast of that, so I won't discuss that in open session this evening. Additionally, there were two presentations made. The first, the Montgomery County engineer provided a presentation on the status of Montgomery County bridges and roadways with specific information on their engineer's request that their county commission consider increasing the excise tax to provide additional resources for repair of county bridges. Bridge conditions, not just in Montgomery County, here in Greene County and across the country, are serious. It is a very, very serious issue, many decades of neglect. So we had a great report on Montgomery County from that. And then second, there was a report that was provided by Colleen Ryan, representing Veteran Energy, on her firm's 2018 plans for gas infrastructure redevelopment. We have a map of the areas that will be impacted here in our city, in Xenia, as we will see in 2018 some work to replace aged gas lines in our community. If you're having any trouble seeing this, this is the area east of Detroit Street, north of Church Street. You'll note that this is one of the older sections of town, and so this is natural gas infrastructure that frankly has been in the ground for many, many, many decades. So it's actually, while it's an inconvenience to our residents, this is very important and very positive as it's a reinvestment in the infrastructure in our community. So again, we don't have the exact timeline that that'll start. They do give us notice as they get closer to it, but that is some work that will be commencing here in the spring at some point. It should also be noted that we have been given notice that Vectren will be addressing the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, seeking essentially, they call it a cost recovery. To Sally Cream Cheese and you and me, we call it a rate increase. They have made quite a few investments like this in the region, and so under Ohio law, they have the opportunity to go back to the PUCO and request an increase in their rate structure to help offset that cost, and so they'll be pursuing that this year. So just as a heads up, as that would progress, we'll give you more information.
Thank you very much. Anything for our city manager or mayor, for mayors and managers, please? Thank you. We have a report from Board of Zoning Appeals that was formerly chaired by our mayor last year and for the 4 years previous, Marcia Bayless, and has provided a written report which I'll read into the record. The BZA met on December 27th, 2017 on the following. One case was reviewed with 2 variance requests for Bars Pharmacy, 28 West Main Street. One variance was granted to allow a drive-through window stacking spaces to have 0 setback from right-of-way instead of the required 25 feet. A second variance was denied, which would have allowed 2 stacking spaces instead of the required 3. The drive-through window will have 1 window instead of 2 windows as requested. And that concludes the report from BZA. Are there any questions or comments for BZA? Seeing none, we'll move to reports from our appointed officials and from council members. Mr. City Manager, please.
Two items this evening. As mentioned prior, it's a little bit redundant, but staff is working on materials for 2 upcoming work sessions within the next month or so. And again, as we've discussed with council, these will discover the scope of need and options for street rehabilitation. And then we're also putting together information as promised regarding recommendations for downtown parking facilities. So again, I don't have exact timeframes worked out on that, but I know those are 2 items of interest for council. We are working on special presentations and scheduling work sessions for that. Finally tonight, I'm very pleased to present to City Council the first installment of our new original programming platform, eXplore Xenia TV. Our public relations coordinator, Lee Warren, has been working very hard over the past year to develop our capacity to be able to present this new public information and outreach platform. Over the course of 2018, we're hoping to produce at least 4 of these 30-minute shows in addition to the mini episode that we'll present this evening. Each program will will present interviews with community leaders, economic development, and city departmental features, and quality of life segments. eXplore Xenia TV will be presented on Government Channel 5, and then we'll be able to take vignettes from those different episodes that will be released via our social media platforms. So without further ado, I think we have it queued up. I'd like to present eXplore Xenia TV Episode 1.
Hello and welcome to eXplore Xenia TV. I'm Lee Warren, the PR guy at the City of Xenia, and your host for eXplore Xenia TV, a fast-paced program with news, views, and information about things in the City of Xenia. Today I'm here to share a little preview of eXplore Xenia TV and to give you a taste and feel for future shows you'll see right here on eXplore Xenia TV in 2018. So hey, stay tuned and look for eXplore Xenia TV. We might just catch you and your family exploring all the things Xenia has to offer and share. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Alexis Gomez, an American Idol finalist, and if you want to know anything about Xenia, visit explorexenia.com.
Today is Small Business Saturday in Xenia. Small Business Saturday is a nationwide event geared at shoppers to spend their money at locally owned businesses. But you know, every day should be Small Business Saturday in Xenia. Why? Because we've got all the services that you might just need. So let's just check it out and see what's going on at Small Business Saturday today. A few months ago in downtown Xenia, we lost a very important pharmacy service in the middle of town. Well, one small town pharmacist found out about the loss, and in addition to his stores in Wilmington, Sabina, and Hillsborough, he added one in Xenia. Let's take a look.
Bar's Hometown Pharmacy is a part of a network of small independent pharmacies. We try to perform our business in the small local communities. That's our niche markets. We have 3 other pharmacies, one in Wilmington, Ohio, one in Sabina, Ohio, one in Hillsborough, Ohio. When we kind of seen a need arise in the Xenia community for an independent, we jumped on that opportunity, and that's why we're here. We have free delivery service to the Xenia community and some surrounding areas. We do a special service that we call compliance dose packaging. We think it's super important, actually very critical that patients take their medication like the doctor intends you to. So we do a medication management program where we lay your medicines out, how you're to take them every day of the week, morning, noon, evening, at bedtime. However the doctor has designed it for you to take your medications, we produce the compliance packaging. So all you have to do is punch it out. It's a great memory tool. It's a great adherence tool. Helps you take it routinely. That's one of our main core services that goes along with our free delivery that sets us apart from the other chain pharmacies in Xenia. You know, we take the time to talk to you about your medicines, make sure you're on the right medicines, make sure that 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 you understand what your therapies are and how to take your medicine so you can live a healthier life. And I think that plays into the bigger picture of just supporting a local community and supporting the community you live in so they can be healthier and happier lives. We do have a website, barshometownpharmacy.com. You can also find us on Facebook. You know, we do supply IVR services. When you call our pharmacy, you can enter your prescription right on the phone. You can enter it on the computer. We have an app. So we have several means to visit us and for us to service your pharmacy needs.
If you've taken a close look lately, you may have noticed that Xenia is starting to attract some fantastic restaurants throughout the city. Whether in the Progress Drive area or in this case in downtown Xenia, if you have not been to One Bistro, then you've missed not only a fine dining experience, but a restaurant that also gives back to the disabled community, and at the same time, it's fine dining with a hometown touch. Let's check it out.
One Bistro is a community cafe. It's a pay-it-forward concept where someone can come in and dine. We have a suggested $6 price. So if you can pay for that, we ask you to consider paying it forward for someone else's meal. Toward Independence was looking for a way to expand their day services, provide means for their clients to have meaningful activity, have meaningful job skill opportunity, and to partner with us. They can offer their day clients the ability to come in and do training if you need, but they have a program developed to where their day clients can come in, they can get the food safe certification, they can get interview practice, they can get some culinary skills. They'll do some in our facility, they'll do some in their facility here, the training. But it's, again, back to that concept of everyone has value and purpose, and being able to utilize our facility to help offer training that could potentially allow someone else to, you know, be marketable or have some skills somewhere else. One Bistro, we're open. We have limited hours. We're open Wednesday through Friday, 11 to 2, and Saturday from 8 to 2. Saturday has a breakfast, a brunch, and some lunch items. Information can be found out on our website at onebistro.org. It's a great site. You can find out how to volunteer there, how to give there. You can find stories about us on there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a lot of social media. We try to promote a lot of stories and events that are going on, organizations that support us and connect with us.
We'll be right back.
Hey, we're from Chicago, and we enjoy being downtown Xenia. And we love your bike trails. Wish we had them in Chicago.
I agree. Happy 4th of July. I think the state of Ohio is beautiful. I love this city, and the trails are fabulous.
Among the many fine businesses in Xenia, one stands prominently near the corner of Main and Detroit. Xenia Shoe and Leather not only fixes your old shoes in need of repair, but they also sell all types of cool shoes, especially if you're an outdoors type of person. Let's pop in and see what's going on.
We've been here since 1982, repairing shoes and anything that takes a heavy stitch, so jackets, leather goods, luggage, purses, yeah. But then we're also a shoe store. We actually sell Red Wing, Merrill, Rockport, Birkenstock, Dansko. Our repair portion of the business does involve 6 people, 6 craftsmen, who half of them are repairing shoes every day, half of them are repairing everything else, so sewing patches, putting new zippers in jackets. I think business in Xenia is great because people care about the community. Our customer base is a group of people who care about the town. That's part of the reason they support us. I mean, we're very experienced at what we do, and I feel like we offer folks a good time where we listen to them, hear what they really need, and try to provide for that. So I feel like we take good care of people and what they really need. And we have a good service that people can't find anywhere else, like you said. We have a website, xeniashoe.com. People can communicate through that website. We also do Facebook. We're pretty regular on there, so that's another good way to find Xenia Shoe out there on the web.
So it's obviously hometown Christmas in downtown Xenia, and that means the beginning of the holiday season in and around Xenia. Activities include an ugly sweater 5K run, a parade, of course, holiday shopping, musical entertainment, and even a special light show, donated by our own Chief of Police, Randy Person. And don't worry, if you missed any of it, that's why eXplore Xenia TV is right here in the house to let you check it out right from your favorite place to view TV.
Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party. There's a tone hung where you can't see, every couple tries to stop. Rocking around the Christmas tree, let the Christmas spirit lead. Later we'll have some pumpkin pie and we'll do some caroling. You will get a sentimental feeling when you hear voices singing, let's be jolly, deck the halls with boughs of holly, rocking around the Christmas tree, have a happy holiday. See everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned way. Take it, Chico.
For the last 5 years, I've done a light show program in my house. It's gotten just too big. I asked the city if they would mind if I moved it here. They agreed. So we brought the Xenia lights to the Johnny Park, and tonight's the inauguration of that. And we're very proud and happy to be able to do this for the community. And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Well, we hope you like that little taste of eXplore Xenia TV. We'll be bringing you several programs throughout this year, so stay tuned to this channel and ExploreXenia.com. Thanks for tuning in today to this edition. We'll see you next time right here on eXplore Xenia TV.
We tried to line up Denzel Washington, but this guy was a little more in our price range. So he seemed to work out pretty well. Thanks to Lee and the folks who are working on this again. Just ways to bring more information, highlighting our businesses, our people, our community, what's going on here in a positive way. We can't do it every week, but we'll try to get a library built that'll allow us to continue to provide more and more of this type of resource in the future. So,
Thank you. Anything for our city manager, please, this evening?
Mr. President, I'd
Yes.
just like to comment that Mr. Warren's done an excellent job here extolling the virtues of our fair city. I mean, this is who we are. We can't run away from who we are. And we need to make the best of it every chance we get.
Absolutely.
And I think he's done an excellent job, and I think we're on a good path. So kudos, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Finance Director.
I would just note that as comparisons are made between different municipalities, that's very difficult. Everybody does business a little differently. I know I've spoken to council in the past about the state's evaluation of the fiscal health of different municipalities and how difficult that is to get a standard that's equal across all of those municipalities. The $63.4 million that's in the city's budget, much of that is not actual expenditure, it's paper expenditure. For example, we have a transfer to our police and fire fund of $5 million. So you're taking money from one fund and moving it to another, and that's represented as an expenditure in that number, but it's not a true expenditure. And we have several transfers from water capital to sewer capital, and or water capital to water operating to water capital, and sewer and stormwater and so on. So some of those transfers can skew the total expenditures a bit as you're looking at what the city's actually spending for operations and capital expenses. So just wanted to throw that out there that anytime you're comparing, to get an apples to apples comparison, you have to dig somewhat deep to make sure that you're comparing the same things. So.
Thank you. Anything for our Finance Director this evening, please? And Law Director.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Anything for our Law Director this evening, please? Time for Mayor and Council comments. Councilman Letterback, please.
Thank you, I have nothing this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, welcome, Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, sir.
We all sit up here and do the best job we can. I must say, I don't like the football team that you like. Who is that, Steelers?
Hey, we're all fishing.
Just kidding.
We're not playing.
No, I'm just playing with you. But no, thank you for serving with us here. And I see out in the community a lot. An example of that, many of us attended Phyllis Penowet, former Mayor Xenia, before Marcia Bayless served the city for at least 10 years. And her funeral was last Saturday. I'd like to comment, Stephanie Blackburn, former teacher at Tecumseh Elementary in Xenia, did the message, and I thought she did a phenomenal job. And then our former mayor, Marcia Bayless, closed it, and with very fitting comments. And if anybody knows or remembers Phyllis, she cared very deeply, not just about Xenia, but about the people of Xenia. And so Godspeed to her. And there was a lot of people in attendance, so I appreciate going to that. Other than that, that's all I have tonight. Thank you again.
Thank you. Councilman Scrivens.
Mr. President, thank you. First, I'd like to thank God for the opportunity to serve his people here in Xenia. Having said that, just want to thank everyone who came out to support me this evening. It really means a lot. It shows that we all care about Xenia. I'd like to thank Mr. Matt Bennett and Ms. Billy Carrico for being gracious and offering me congratulations. And even though we may not agree on a lot of issues, we all are Xenians, and we all have to move forward together. And that's what I'm going to be about in my next 340 days here on council. And I look forward to serving the community with zeal and with enthusiasm. And I ask you not only for your accolades, but for your criticisms. And I also would like to have your ideas. So the sooner we can get the ball rolling, the faster we can get Xenia up to where it'll be a destination similar to Yellow Springs on Street Fair Day. I want people coming here wall to wall, ceiling to floor, door to door, and spending money. And we all have to present a positive image. Remember, people see us, they read us. Even though we may not see them, they see us. And they draw conclusions about what they see. So our job is to present a good picture to people. And I just think that we have a golden opportunity here. We're standing on the verge of getting it on, as we say. And I just think that between now and the end of this year, that it's going to be all hands on deck to make Xenia someplace special, which I think it is. And it's not a well-kept secret anymore. We have people in Xenia that have come here from around the world, and they've maintained a residence here. So I just like to say thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I hope that I will earn your respect and your cooperation, and I look forward to being the best city councilman I can be. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Dean.
I'd just like to take a little while to address some of the comments about the roads. I do agree with everyone. I think that's a real issue, definitely something we need to take care of. I just think it's important to remember that the roads didn't get this bad overnight, and they're not going to be fixed overnight. I think we do need to aggressively pursue options to fix them, but it's going to be a long-term fix. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be in a few years. We're going to have to make a plan and stick to it to fix the roads, and it's going to be gradually over time. But we definitely need to do that and explore all possible options except for a tax increase. I don't think the community is for that, and I ran against increasing taxes, so I would be against it too. Then I'd just like to take a moment to congratulate the assistant city manager, even though he's not here, on the birth of his new daughter and becoming a father. So,
thank you. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Monday, January 15th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I was able to participate in a community service. And it was a service put on by the Xenia Area Association of Churches and Ministries, as well as the African American Ministerial Association. And it was an incredible event to be a part of. It was several hundred people there from churches all throughout Xenia. It was fun and it was exciting. It was neat to see people coming together for a common purpose. I was able to participate in the choir that was made up of multiple churches, and just to do something together in a positive fashion. It was a very refreshing event. Despite snow, people came and worked together. And it was, I said at the beginning of the service when I welcomed folks, to me it was a glimpse of what heaven can be like when we come together as the people of God and work together. On Thursday, the 18th, it was an honor to congratulate Mr. John Dobney on being the new director for the Greene County Parks and Trails and welcome him to his new position. On Saturday, the 20th, as Councilman Smith mentioned, I was at the former mayor's funeral, Phyllis Pennewitt, and I just wanted to take a moment to read a verse that was mentioned that she lived by, and it's from Micah 6 in verse 8. What does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. I had a whole sermon in my head for tonight of just the importance of that verse and the context of it, what it means to each of us. But I just wanted to say what a wonderful verse for Phyllis to live by, and I've taken that on as a theme for my own self over these next 4 years, that it is important that I act justly and that I love mercy and walk humbly before my God. So it was a beautiful service, and I was an honor to be a part of it. And also wanted to congratulate Councilman Scrivens for joining us. Thank you. And also congratulate our Assistant City Manager, as mentioned, in the birth of his daughter. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
I'd like to welcome and congratulate Councilman Scrivens as well, and welcome and congratulate our Assistant City Manager's new little one. I did not get to attend former Mayor Pennewitt's homegoing, but I certainly had a lot of respect for her. I got to attend her husband's homegoing, but I didn't get to attend hers. But I certainly appreciated her and then loved her. She was a sweet person. But that's all I have tonight. And the King service was phenomenal. It was one of the better ones we've had. Just some great services, and we've got to keep on climbing to top the ones. The last few years have been wonderful.
Thank you very much. For myself, I would just welcome our new council member, Mr. Scrivens. Pleasure to have you here, sir, and we're expecting big things from you. I'm sure you will not disappoint. And for myself, also acknowledging obviously the addition to the city family with Jared and his wife. Very good to hear that all are doing well. Do we have a name yet?
Her name is Pippa, and we're hoping she will be adding to our tax base by living here permanently.
And where could I possibly go from there? On a serious note, though, I also attended Phyllis Pennewitt's funeral. I had a church and special relationship with both Phyllis and her husband, and deeply saddened, obviously, that both have now gone on to their reward, which I'm confident they are enjoying. But Phyllis was very special to me. She provided me my first suggestion and influence to join this body. She didn't twist my arm, but she made some suggestions to me that I reflected on, and I had great respect for her beforehand and greatly appreciated both her and Pat Felton's assistance and tutelage in my early years on council. So just wanted to obviously acknowledge Phyllis one more time and give her the thanks due her that I'm sure she's receiving now, but also let her know how much she was appreciated by both myself and my family. If there be no other business, I would seek a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved by Councilman Smith. Second, please. Somebody wants to go? Vice President, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean? Aye. Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Did you have the list of appointments?
Yes.
I think it was in your inbox.